Okay, here we go. This is the video that's going to show you how to make the cat and the owl head. The basic shape is almost the same as the circle that we made for the bear and the, what is it, the bunny, except you don't decrease at the top and you sew across for some ears. So I'm going to show you how to make this one, and we'll make the base head, and then we're going to make the owl and the cat face on the head. So hopefully it's not too long. What you're going to need to do the cat and the owl, you're going to need some 4 weight number 4 yarn. I have this left over from a huge ball of that Red Heart Comfort that I had bought. You're going to need black to do your markings and your features on the face, a little bit of pink for the nose on the cat, and then for the owl you're going to need some, I use blue and orange for the eyes and the beak. You can put them any color you like. They can be yellow and green or whatever you like. This is just what I have on hand. You're going to need a stitch marker. There's a little bit of counting of rows in the base. If you don't have a stitch marker, you can just scratch down on a piece of paper. You're going to need a needle to sew in your ends. I said a stitch marker, that's a stitch counter, sorry, row counter, and a stitch marker, and a pair of scissors to sew in the ends. And in this case, I'm using my 3.5mm hook. So, oh, and lots of stuffing. I find these heads take a couple of good handfuls of stuffing. I buy the big bag and then I just keep this here at my desk, so we'll need quite a bit of stuffing for this one. So we're just going to put our little trimmings aside here. We'll get started with the white. I make both of the heads white. They don't have to be. They could be the same color as the hexagon body. They can be anything you like. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to start with a magic circle, and it's going to have 6 single crochets in there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to tighten it up, and just like the others, I like to give a knot, even though the bottom of this head is going to be, this is the part that's going to get sewn onto the body. I still like it to look nice and neat. We're going to do round 2, and I'll place my stitch marker after round 2 because it's a little small to be putting the stitch marker in. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a total of 12. So I'll just count it out here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Great. So the next round is going to be round 3, and what we're going to do is 1 single crochet and then 1 increase, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. So do my first single crochet. Now I'll start using my stitch marker, and then we'll do our increase, next single crochet, then an increase, single crochet, and then 2 single crochets in the same one, 1 single crochet, increase, 1, and an increase, 1, and an increase. And now we're getting up to round 4. In round 4, we're just going to consecutively increase all the way around. So round 4 is going to be 2 single crochets before we do the increase. So I'll stay on for this one. That's 1, 2, and then we increase. 1, 2, and then we increase. My marker's not even closed. I do that sometimes and then it falls right off. That one's 1, 2, and then an increase. I have 3 stitches left, so that'll be 1, 2, and then the last increase. And that's the end of round 4. On round 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets before we do our increase. So I'll just start it off here. That was 1, 2, 3, and then increase. And you can continue that all the way around, and I'll meet you back here when you're done. So that was the end of round 5 with 3 single crochets before we increase. Now we're going to do round 6, and we're going to go up by 1. So it'll be 4 single crochets and then an increase. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and an increase. So you can do that all the way around, and I'll meet you back here when you're done. That's the end of round 6 with 4 single crochets before we increase. Now we're going to do round 7, and it's our last increase round. So this time we're going to do 5 single crochets before we increase. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 single crochets in the same one. So you can continue that all the way around, and I'll meet you back here when you're done. Okay, that's the end of round 7. Now we're going to be finished with the increases for rounds 8 through 22. So that's for like 15 rounds. You're going to just do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So we'll do just a few here, and this is where you're going to need your row counter or a piece of paper to mark how much, because I always get lost. I lose track of how far I've gone. So you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and my stitch counter, or my row counter, I'll set it to 0, and then I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how far we've gotten so far. When we meet back here, we'll be at row number 22. Okay, I'm back, and I've done my 22 rows. I'm going to take the stitch marker out. In this case, we're not doing any decreasing. We're going to just stuff it and then use a single crochet seam around the top here. So I'm going to pull my loop up and make it a little bowl. This one's a little weirder to stuff than the other ones because you're only doing, and try and make it in a little ball before I put it in. You're trying to leave the corners open so you can sew the ears, but you still want the middle to have a little bit of a firm ball in there. So I kind of curl it around with my fingers a little bit when I put it in there. You want it to be firm enough. It's not. I always say it takes 2 good handfuls, but it ends up being more like 3. Now if I'm sewing it across here and leave it empty, it's going to give a good little ball shape. It's not going to get another opportunity to put more stuffing in there, so. All right. So then what we're going to do is we're going to flatten it across the top here. Push the stuffing in as we go, but we definitely don't want any stuffing in this corner or in that corner. So we're going to just do single crochet through this side, and both loops on that side and both loops on that side. So I always like to start off with a chain 1, so I'm not, it's not as awkward. And then the next stitch I'm going to go into, and then back here. So you just kind of, not too tight or anything, just loosely pick up the stitches as we go across. After I get a few stitches over, I go back and make sure that I have no stuffing in the ear, and I kind of push it down as I go. Just fidget with it a little bit after every few single crochets here. Pull them together. And I don't know why sometimes when I do it I get one stitch more or less across. I don't know. I'm putting two together or I'm grabbing an extra one at the end. I'm not sure how I do it, but as long as it's tightly closed all across the top. Now I'm going to start making sure that's empty. Make sure I go through both. There, that looks good. It's hard to describe these things when you're writing the pattern. And then I do one extra little slip stitch at the end there, do my little chain 2 move. And this strand, I should say, the length that you leave at the end, you're going to use a long string because we're going to slip it down there and then we're going to sew up here across and down there. So I like to leave, again, good 14 or 16 inches. And then I'm going to pull all that through. Tie my little knot. And what, maybe I said we only needed one stitch marker at the beginning, but you could use a piece of different colored yarn to mark these or not, but I have some stitch markers here, so I'm just going to grab 3 more. My yellow one I was using is in the way here. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, just to make sure that the ears are even, I like to mark them. So I go down about 6 rows from the top here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to pinch here. Just put a little marker right there. And then follow that line all the way around to the other side. And pinch it. We're going to put a mark here. This is to guide us so we don't go off in our sewing. And then along the top, I think in the pattern I say to go across 9 stitches. What you want is to close off the ears and just have about 3 stitches in the middle to make it look like the head is a little bit round there. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Mark that one. Sometimes I'm off by a stitch in here. Sometimes I have 2 left in the middle and sometimes I have 3. But we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In this case, I'm going to have 3. Which is okay. Either one is okay as long as you have this little space in the middle, because these are going to get sewn down like that. So then we're going to take our needle, give it a little thread. Again, I probably have way too much of a tail here. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to hide this little knot and get down to this spot here at the same time. So I'm just going to tuck it in and come right out the at the marker here. You want to give it a good tug to hide the knot in there. It's not so noticeable, but at the same time you don't want to squish everything down, so you can kind of pull it back up a bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from back to front. And this one, when I'm sewing along here, I like to give it a good sized little tug. And then just go back, and it's a little back and forth. You can give it extra tug at the end to tighten it up. You don't want to leave it too loose. You want the ear to look flat. And then just going to make your way along until you get to the marker here. And then I'm going to make sure I give it a good tug so it's squeezed in before I come out here. And then you don't want to go all the way up to this top. You just kind of zip through the inside, and you're going to come out at the next green marker. You don't want to pull that too tight because you don't want to squish it up, but there we go. You could make a knot there, I guess, before you go across the other side, but I just haven't had a problem with it. Now we're going to make our way through these stitches front and back until we get from here to the next yellow marker. So I'm going to start here. Oops. The stitches don't always go in exactly a diagonal, but you work with what you got here, and it's all good when you get to the marker. Go back in here. This time I'm going to take the marker out while I sew my little knot. I want to do right here, and then we're going to do this knot, and I'm going to make actually a second knot. And like as in the other ones, we're going to tuck this first one. You always do kind of close so that that knot will get pulled in there, and you're going to go through some stuffing. There you go. Don't pull that in, but don't yank this part too much because it'll give a dimple. We'll go back through some stuffing 2 more times, and we'll come out the bottom here. And that's the end of that. We take out our markers, and we have our shape. You can also make the cat. You can make it with the round ball and make some pointy ears and put it on. I've done the cat face that way. I just kind of like this one better. I like that it works both for the owl and the cat. But there you go. Now we have our basic head shapes. And now we're going to make one into the owl and one into the cat. So I'm going to start with the owl. I guess I'm going to do the owl face first because you have to make eyes for it. So in this case, I'm going to do the eyes first. Okay, we're going to make the eyes for the owl. First, we're going to make the back part of the eye. So we're going to start with the blue color, which is what I've chosen, and we're going to make a magic circle. It's going to have 6 single crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tighten it up and a couple of knots. And then we're going to have 2 single crochets in each stitch around for a total of 12. I'm not going to use my marker for this round, but I'll start using it next round. So in that stitch, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. In the next round, we're going to do a few different kinds of stitches. We're going to do 3 single crochets to start off with. So there will be 1. My marker back. Oh, that was 1 single crochet, then 2, 3, and then we're going to do a single crochet increase in the next stitch, so that'll be 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then the next stitch we're going to double crochet in the next 2 actually. So we'll do yarn around and then through twice. That's 1 double crochet in the next stitch. This next stitch we're going to do a double crochet increase, so which means we're going to be doing 2 double crochets in 1 stitch. In the next stitch we just do 1 double crochet. In the next stitch we're going to do a single crochet increase, so we're going to be doing 2 single crochets in that stitch, and then the last 3 stitches will just be single crochet, same as what we started with. Then we're going to slip back into the first stitch here, and we're going to make a tail for sewing the eye on the head. And then that's our first eye. I do it that way so it's like a little more oblong than round, but I'm just going to pause the video here. We're going to make your second eye, and then we'll come back and continue. Okay, I'm back, and I've finished making my 2 eye backings, so I'm going to put those aside. Now we're going to make the beak. The beak just has 2 rows in it, so it's a little dainty. So we're going to make a slip knot. I'm not a magic circle for a change. And then we're just going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. In the second stitch from the hook, we're going to do 1 single crochet. And then in the next stitch, we're going to do another single crochet. So that was just 2 single crochets in that row. We're going to chain 1 and turn. In the second stitch from the hook, we're going to do 1 single crochet. And then we're going to do a slip stitch in the next, and then we're just going to tie it off. Leave a tail for sewing. And that is going to be the beak, as long as it has some kind of a little triangle shape to it. And then what I didn't do earlier was sew in the extra, so I don't get bogged down when it comes time to sew them on the face. Just kind of tuck the extra tail in a couple of times and cut it off, so it'll be hidden in the back anyway. We don't need that in our way. And I didn't do the same on the eyes. Usually tuck in my tails as I go, and then just do around twice, clean it up. And when we're going to sew these on, I'm going to mark the spot ahead of time, even though the eyes are so big, it's not hard to sew them on, but I've done things crooked and cockeyed so many times, I still take the effort to mark the spot where they're going to go. So we'll put these aside, take 2 little pieces of your, any contrasting color, I'm just using my black here. We're going to bring our face out, our little head, and we would like the eyes, I like them to go just about halfway down from the ears, and I like them to touch each other. So I like them to be pretty close together. Allow for the fact that we're sewing through these threads, so when I measure them, I put them a little bit apart because they're going to get sewn together there. Just make sure we have 4 on that side. On the bottom of the ear, yeah. And 4 on that side. So now, just put a little mark in there. Put the mark along this row. Make it 3 wide. And take my next string and mark it 3 wide. And there we go. And that just gives me a little bit of an idea where I'm going to be sewing the eye backs on. Of course, you'll be sewing like around that, and we'll pull it out when we're done. So again, I like to thread through a few times just to pull my extra little knot in there so it's not so noticeable. And then I leave that down at the bottom anyway. So what we're going to do is we're still going to measure 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to pick it in right about there. And when you're sewing through the edge, I like to make sure I go through both strands of the edging here, and then that hides the yarn underneath. So we'll just do, I'm always saying be careful, don't pull the black in, and then I pull the black in, and then we'll come through here and back there again. Oh, I'm not giving it a tight tug yet. Come back through here, making sure that there's just no little gaps around for fingers to get in, or for the eyes to get pulled off. And then back around this side. Never like go all the way over there, because you will leave the little strand will show. But if you keep it close, you won't be able to see it after. First eye is always the easiest because you don't have anything to measure it against, but when you're putting the second one on, you got to make sure you're staying even with the first one. Now I'm going to take my marker off so I don't sew it in. Make sure when I'm coming around that I'm going to hide my little knot here. Put the yarn through. Where did it come up here? Come up inside here. And then I'll go down around for my last stitch. I'm going to give it an extra little tug and make sure there's no gaps around the edge. And then I'm going to come down in here and I'm going to make a knot. I'd like my knot to go through the white as well. Tighten it up and do a second one. And then we're going to be hiding the blue in behind, and we want this little knot to get tucked in here, so we'll start that way. There you go. And then the next hiding, you want it to be a little more gentle so you don't make a dimple. Making sure you go through some stuffing. Just helps to keep the yarn tight inside. Hopefully it doesn't come out after. And there's eye number 1. I guess it could be considered a little too high. So we get this guy on there. It's going to be fine. As usual, I left my tail a little long there. Do the same here with this guy. Go in and out a few. I keep going like this. Let's go in and out a few times to hide that tail, or make it, it just makes it look a little bit more round. And I make sure I put the pointier part of the eye up here, and then I'm just going to start sewing them on here. I'm just going to grab, I don't like that one, I'm going to go in here. At the first, come right back, making sure that you go through both strands. Now this is where I like to go through right beside. I like the eyes to touch each other, so I'm gonna be pulling them closer together here and go through the same hole. And now I'm going to separate them next stitch here. We'll do, you don't want to go past the same row that you were sewing on here. Just make sure that next time you stick the needle in that it's still on the same row. Almost did it. And now we're going to go down the next row. I can take my marker out now. And then what you want to do is make sure that you're not bunching it up here, that you're getting it stretched right out. And we're still going to have our 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches around there. Sometimes you just get it right the first time, and sometimes you gotta try it a couple of shots. And then we were sewing along this bottom ledge here, so we're going to come all the way out here. Oops. This is the one where we have our little knot. We want to pull it down, make sure it matches. This next one, it's going to go the next row down. Pull this one down. We want them to match at the bottom. Make this one come out right here, and then we're going to go do our knot behind here. Didn't leave as long of a string on this one. Get a nice tug. It's going to get hidden right in there. I kind of tugged a little tough there. I saw a little dimple. And there you go, that's the eyes. We're going to go do a little V shape in them after. But first we're going to sew the beak on. My beaks always look a little clumpy. Hopefully I can spread it out a bit while we sew it on here. And like I was doing with the other ones, I'm going to still go through one little side first. It looks like this is going to be the wide side of it. I want it to touch on the corner of each eye with just a little bit of white in the middle. So that means we're going to go, measure it. You don't have to mark this one really. We're going to go in this little, I only went through half a stitch there because the tip is so tiny. And then I'm going to come right back out where the bottom of this stitch is. Not getting too much thread. This one's a little bit more fussy because you don't have a lot to sew with. I'm going to go right back in the same hole and up on a kitty corner. And here's where you get to stretch it out a little bit. I'm going to go right in the corner on that side, out the middle here, and then we're going to go right between these two because that's where we want the top of the beak to sit. Now we're just going to come out the next corner, and it's going to make it sit right there. Then we're going to go back in these two. It's really hard to see the edge stitches, but if you can grab two and then go back from this corner right where we started, and then you can give everything a little tug, and we're going to tie it off right here at the front with a little extra. Or not. Almost looks like a heart shape instead of a diamond. I kind of do it a little different every time. And now we're going to tuck this one in. Looks like it's going over this way a little bit, so I'm going to tuck it in this side. Go through some stuffing. Give it another little tug to go that way. And then we're going to hide the string a couple of more times. And that'll be the end of that one. Now he has a beak. And the last thing we're going to do with this guy is take a piece of black. We're going to make some little V shapes on his eyes. That's popping out there a little bit. Again, I'll take a piece of string that's, you probably only need about 12 or 14 inches. Looks like I have about 20. And we're going to do a V shape, and we want it to go from the middle of his eye and up on an angle. You can decide if you want it to go up this high or this high. I'm going to make it just from the next ridge up. So I'm going to do from there, go right through the middle, leave a long tail for sewing in, and then I'm going to measure, because while I have it in there, I can measure how much of a V shape I want. I'm going to go up here and come right back out that first hole you went into, and then right back in the middle again. Now my yarn is a little thinner, because I keep using the same old ball of black that I have here, so you can go through it twice if you want to it to be a thicker line. I'm going to do it once first, and then I'll decide after. So you're going to go from the center of this eye right up the center of this eye. And that, yeah, I think I'm probably going to have to go over it twice. I don't like how thin that is. And then we're going to do the same thing on the next. You can kind of judge by here. I'm going to come right across. And then because I think I'm going to, I think I like a thicker line. If you have thicker yarn, you don't have to go through it twice. I'm just going to go through twice here. I'm pretty much only going through the thickness of the blue as well. I don't think I'm going through too much of the white. And go straight across the other side, and then you can see I like that better. It's thicker. So now I'm going to have to go through these, and I want to make sure my finishing comes out at the same as this one, because that's where we're gonna tie the yarn. So I want to go across. I'm going to have to do an extra one anyway. Go across to come out the same way here. I thought I was going to get away with not doing this twice, but I'm going to come underneath here and right back out the same hole again. And there. And that's going to be our little owl face. Tie it a little tight. And we're going to take this needle, back it up so we can thread both through at the same time. And we're going to go right back through the same spot, and we're going to go right out the white here. We want to hide the tails. Oops. I'm never sure which side I'm supposed to be pulling on here. And because now I went and tugged it a little too hard, you can go back and loosen that up again. And I have enough of the little tail. I'm going to put it through twice. The more times you can hide it, the more secure it's going to be. Yeah, now the little tail will come off. It's hard not to pull it too tight. And I'm going to go back through one more time with this guy. And this will be the finished face of the owl. He's cute. I don't know if you have any other ways that you like to sew the face on, but that's just the way I do it. I try to keep everything as simple as I can, so it's not too fussy. Now I'm going to sew the face on for the cat. You don't have to make any extra special pieces for the cat face. All I did was sew on some eyes and a nose. So in this case, we're going to need the pink, a little bit of pink for the nose, and we're going to need another piece of black for the eyes and the little mouth. I make a little bit of an extra long piece because I'm doing both of the eyes and the mouth with the same yarn. And in this case, the eyes, I just made a little V shape, almost a sideways V shape actually. You can make the eyes any shape you like. This is just my simplistic. I tried doing it before with whiskers on it, and I didn't do a nice job with the whiskers. So if you can do whiskers, then all the better, all the better for you. But I can't do anything too fancy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim for the middle. I'm going to just kind of measure. Remember those 3 stitches at the top here? I'm going to kind of measure that's the middle. And I want the eyes to be, the bottom part of the eyes is going to be not quite level with the bottom of the ear, but 1 row up. And there's going to be, how many? 1, 2, 3. It's going to be about 4 stitches in between. So I'm going to move over 1, 2, 3. So I'll have 2 extra on this side and 2 extra on that side. And the bottom part of the eye, again, is on the 3rd. So go 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 3 stitches over. And that's the bottom part of this eye. And it just goes up on a little bit of a angle, like not not even here, but more over here. And it goes up two rows up. So we're gonna do that, and then I'm going to come out here, and I had left 2 stitches from the middle on this side, so I'm going to leave 2 stitches from the middle on that side, and my next eye is going to start right here. I think that might even be a little bit too far apart, but we'll see how it goes. And then this one was going to go 1, 2, and into the third one, and I'm going to come right back out the same stitch here before I do the little slant here, because I don't know, it's going up 2 rows and it's only coming out a little bit. I guess it's gonna go like this. Oh, there we go. That's my idea of eyes. And then our nose is going to be right between the eyes and about 2 rows down. So we're going to be using, say, this little place here for the pink part of the nose. So in this case, I'm going to come out right here for the black part of the nose. So I'm going to go back in through here and come out this one. I'm just judging here. Sometimes I get it wrong and I have to undo the yarn. Does that look right? It does. And then I'm going to go down 2 rows, and I'm going to make this the little smallest little line for the nose. Actually, what I should have done, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to have to go in between here. What I should have done was come through at this one and then go back up after I'm done. I like that. So I come through here and then I go across, and then I'm going to go back up. And that's going to help me make the line. Actually, it's a little thin, my yarn here, so I'm going to do twice. Go back down here again. I'm going to go twice and then come up. Maybe in the case of the cat face, it might be better to do a little bit of a thicker yarn. And I'm going to give it a good stretch out. And now I'm just going to go back in between the 2 of those, and I'm going to come right back out where I started here so I can tie my knot in that one. Actually, I think that's a little thin, so I'm going to come back here and do it again. Sometimes you just have to play with it a little bit as you go along, and you can see now that's a little thicker. I like the look of that. We're going to do our knots. And this is just the simplest. Like if I was drawing, I would be drawing stick people. That's how simple my characters are. Tuck this one in here. There we go. I got room to do this guy twice. Needle down and cut this guy off. And one last time. That is the eyes and the mouth. Now I'm just going to go over this part here and put some pink for the nose. If you know how to make pretty blue cat eyes or something like that, that would look so cute. Now I'm going to go through these two. And then when I do this one, I do tug it a little tight so it won't be that big when I'm done. I'll just keep going through the same two. Get a little bunched up. I do this about 4 or 5 times. I tried taking the pink thread and doing a little bit of cross stitch in here in the ears to give it some more color in the face, and it didn't turn out very nice, so I abandoned that idea. There we go. Now I go back under, through some stuffing. Oops. Come back up that same side, then I'll tie it off. That's going to be my little cat face. It's very simplistic. This. I'm going to get that pink through twice. There we go. And that's that. Now we have the cat and the owl face. I have made the started to make the body for the cat. The owl, I have done another body. I did the same owl face. I did the body this color, so it kind of came out kind of cute. The cat I'm making a little purple body for. I have so many heads rolling around here. It's not even crazy. It's crazy. So now that's the end of my videos. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or problems with the way that I've done it, if I'm too fast or too slow. I will mark in the comments where you find the pattern for the body and the arms and the hands and the feet, and the hopefully the videos will all be linked together. I'll put in each video, I'll put the links to all the others anyway, but maybe I can mark the times for where you can find the hexagon pattern for the body, and then mark the times for the hands and the feet. But hopefully you like it, and thanks for watching.